a playlist original.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Back to the Blockbuster Presents Deep Dives with Owen and Gaius.
Episode
My name's
2.
Gaius. Episode 2. I don't know. I feel like we gotta make a better intro. Like if it should be like movie trailer voice, like do it like that. I mean, I can't do it now because I just got my voice back, kind of.
We'll find another good intro.
Or you do like wacky romantic comedy voiceover
Gosh,
voice.
I don't know if I can handle that.
Oh, yeah, we got like every other week now, probably not. But yeah, we are excited to do episode 2 for you. We apologize for the gap between episode 1 and episode 2. I think I think it was a combination of like being excited to get started.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, yeah. So we recorded like December 5th. So that was of course, the start of like the holiday season, right? And if you're doing it every other week, that next week we were going to do it.
Was right at the beginning of the holidays.
Right in the beginning of the holidays. So Owen went to go like see his family, and that and that of course is important. And then of course after that it's Christmas, and then it's like, well, can we do it? Like, no, now there's New Year's Eve, and then
it was just a culmination of a lot of things.
Yeah, and then I ended up losing my fucking voice, so it's probably good that we didn't.
It worked out for the best.
It worked out. I mean, we hung out last Monday, and I guess we could have done it, but I couldn't talk. I mean, you were you were a trooper.
To say the least, it was this is an improvement, I'll say.
Yeah, I don't know how Owen hung out with me that long that day, but he did. he was a trooper about it.
I weathered the storm.
And the fucking next day, it got like better. Like this, surprisingly, guys, sounds a lot better than it did. Like I couldn't talk at all.
He just has the gravelly voice. He's going full, like lethal weapon status.
Like trying to see if it like works for me. We'll see. But before we get into like what movie, because this week is my week and it's my pick. But episode 1 was it did really well and it was received really well. It's the only episode of like just Back to the Blockbuster in general that I actually listened to twice because I was like, all right, it's new, so I wanted to see like how it went. And I think when we were recording it, I felt like maybe we like left out stuff talking about prisoners, but then like listening to it back, it was like we covered like everything that we could possibly cover.
Like we really didn't leave any stone unturned.
Yeah, and it was good, and people really enjoyed it. We actually got like a review on Apple Podcasts that's someone left. I don't know, read in a second, but like it was a really positive review about the spinoff, like in general. You know what? Owen says that he didn't know this, but like the week that we did that, I went on Rotten Tomatoes, like researched something for work, and then under like their like trending and like streaming movies, like Prisoners was there. And it actually had been trending on Twitter too that week, but that's because it had just hit like Netflix, I guess. And Owen says he didn't know that
it hit Netflix the week after we recorded.
Okay. So like he said that he didn't know that was gonna happen. But it's probably good that it did because maybe that kind of helps the algorithm a little bit.
I will tell you, it was not intentional. It was not intentional whatsoever. But I will say that I was trying to look up and see where I could watch it before we recorded, and there was no place to watch it. But then when I looked on Netflix, it said coming in 8 or 9 days or something like that. So I did keep that to myself. But at the same time, I think that it was a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, we went ultra dark with the first episode,
number 1.
But I think what we found that people really love Prisoners though still, like all these years later, and like they were really interested in like what we thought about it, and they thought we did a really good job. I am gonna read the one review that was left on December 22nd from Sean S. Keenan. Been a fan of the show for a while, but really loved the first episode of BTTP presents spinoff. Great to hear Owen back on the show and really dug the genuine chemistry of two friends discussing movies. Highly recommend it and can't wait to hear more. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Son. That is a really awesome,
great to
nice
hear.
review.
Thank you so much.
Nice review.
Good to be back.
because we're doing this, it's for fun, and it's like, and it's finally kind of like the show like we kind of originally thought this was going to be when we first started like
Mhm.
the original show. um but I mean, now I get to do the best of both worlds, so it's like it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I guess, I already, of course, already know what you did over the long break. I mean, I've seen you, and like
Well, I want to know
it's hard to.
what you've been watching recently, because I've definitely watched a few things since we saw each other last. So I kind of want to hear what you've been watching recently.
Well, I'll go with the most. Well, I don't know if I want to say the most recent one, just in case you use it later. But
Okay.
you showed me a really good movie on Monday, and not only had I never seen
I
it, I had
did.
never heard of it, like
I
at
did, yeah.
all.
So
It,
to all the listeners out there, I finally showed Gaius a movie that he had never seen before, which is a absolute like no brainer for me, which it never happens ever.
yeah,
So
ever.
the fact that this happened is a triumph for me.
Yeah,
But also it was one that I would probably have picked later down the road, but now we can kind of talk about it a little bit now. So go for it.
yeah. I mean, I mean, I don't know when you're going to use it, but it's in your back pocket if you want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, you did show me Shot Caller, and it was really good. And I was
Mhm.
like, and it was funny too, guys, because like I remember when I showed him 25th Hour and Closer, I had one of those moments where it's like, I wonder if he likes it. Like kind of looking over, like, I wonder
Yeah.
if he likes it. And then like you had those similar moments with me watching this movie, like oh, this part's gonna get really good. Wait, maybe I shouldn't say anything. Like, I hope he
Yeah.
likes it. Like, you could just tell that you were like, I hope
There
that
were
he
certain moments
is
where I was
enjoying
just like,
it.
yo, that scene, right?
Yeah, yeah. So like you got to do what I've done to you like a few times.
Yeah.
Uh and I, don't be surprised if it's the subject of a future deep dive because
Yeah, no, it's a I'm surprised you've never seen it. I feel like it's sort of a hidden gem, if you could say. Like just one of
yeah,
those ones that Netflix produces so many goddamn movies nowadays that they probably just threw this one out there. And I mean, I've probably seen it 4 or 5 times now, but
oh,
it's one of those things that it always grips me, and I really love the movie. So I'm surprised you've never seen The Gaze, but I'm glad you did.
dude, not only had I never seen it, I never heard of it. That was like, I guess that was like the I think that was like the other big
Yeah,
surprise. It
that's
wasn't just
crazy.
I hadn't
That's
seen
crazy.
it, I had never even heard of it. And then I ended up sharing it on like my G Rolls like, Instagram
Yo,
page.
what were some of the comments that some people had said
Well,
too?
one guy, Kurt, who is like a fan of the show and like really, really good guy, all he wrote was like "great fucking movie" in all caps, and I was like, yeah. And then like some other people messaged me about it. They were like, "Oh, I can't believe you hadn't seen that." I was like, "I know. I mean, like, I don't know how I missed it. I never even seen a trailer for it. Uh,
I
good
never seen the
cast too.
trailer for it either. I
Yeah,
just kind
good
of
cast
stumbled
too.
upon it.
I don't know how the movie guy, I never heard of it. But I think you kind of enjoyed like showing me something that I
Yeah.
hadn't heard of or let alone
No, that
seen.
felt
So,
great. Finally.
so it was good. And during the break too, I saw Babylon.
Mm,
I really liked it, but I can see why everyone doesn't love it. It's also 3 hours, so there's that.
yeah. Long movie.
The first hour though, which is why I ended up putting it in my top 10 for the year. The first hour is amazing. Like it is like they make you feel like you are at a very debauchery filled like old Hollywood like party. It's like a legit like it's so good. Like the following 2 hours kind of drag in different directions, but like
Yeah.
the first hour alone made me like I was like if you feel like you're there like when you're watching
Yeah.
it.
Wow.
And Margot Robbie is a fucking tornado in it. She's amazing in it.
Didn't Brad Pitt say that was her best performance he's ever seen her in?
Yeah, and she said that and she even said that it's the most like work that she's put into like for a role. Like she really like, kind of went all in, and you could tell. Like, I mean, she'll likely get nominated. I'm not sure about the movie because the movie got just mixed reviews from critics, but um, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I still think
Hmm.
like Damien Chazelle is a good director. I mean, I love Whiplash and La La Land. I even like First Man. I know some people are like iffy about that one, but like I I don't know. You know what? Here's what he did. He took some big swings and he took some chances, and I can respect that. Everyone's not gonna
Yeah.
like love it, um, but at least he did. And a lot of people, and especially when we're trying to get like original movies, like out there more instead of like comic book
100%.
movies and like
And we talk about that all the time.
movies and like
And we talk about that all the time,
yeah,
where
and
we
so like
want new content.
right, and that's why like I hate seeing like the articles kind of like almost enjoying that it flopped, like it didn't do well over the break.
It's not
It's
a
like
sequel. It's not a
yeah,
superhero movie,
and it's
whatever it
like
is. But it's like, guys, it's new
yeah,
though.
and it's like even if he didn't totally like ace it, like we need original movies like that out there. So like I don't relish in the fact that like watching it bomb. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe don't release a coke filled Hollywood movie during Christmas, but hey, they did that with Wolf of Wall Street and that made money. So
yeah.
I
It's a
don't.
very interesting. Yeah, but I feel like that's even that's different. Like even
Yeah,
that's just like a different kind of style, and like it
yeah,
has a very different audience than Babylon does.
and I also think that like even though like Wolf of Wall Street like skews older, I think young people were still able to like
I would have
identify
said
with
Wolf of
it.
Wall Street skews younger.
Well, yeah, I mean, but yeah, you're right.
Well, I
You're
mean,
right.
in terms of like the mid-20s.
Right. No, right.
Yeah,
So like at least it can get like a youthful demographic to go see it. Like most teenagers are not going to go see a movie about like 1920s Hollywood, even if you make it look like it's like one hell of a party. Like
yeah.
it's a tough sell, I
It's
think.
not
And
their kind of party. It's not what they're used to.
yeah, not at all. But yeah, I saw that and I saw like Bones and All with Timothy Chalamet
Hmm.
over the break
How was that?
too. It's really good. Also not for everyone, but it's I mean it's so that like some people are listening as a horror movie. I didn't really look at it that way, but
Hmm.
it is about two cannibals that are in love with each other, and I mean, of course, it sounds like a Timothy Chalamet movie, and he's really good in it, man. Like he picks like really interesting offbeat stuff to do,
Yeah,
and and
he's
I
going with his
really
gut. He's following Leo DiCaprio's words, where
yeah.
don't be a
Don't do
superhero.
superhero. Don't do
Yeah, don't
superhero
do
movies.
those
Yeah.
movies.
Yep. But yeah, it is a love story though. I mean, they are in love. They just like to eat people. So
I like to eat people, and how
yeah,
can they control it?
right. What about you? Did you catch anything like during the break?
So I actually decided to watch Wednesday. I had never seen it before,
It's pretty good.
but I decided to watch it, and I will say that I was pleasantly surprised. I think there were a few plot lines that were just for specific episodes, which I understand. But for what was I would say considered a mini series at the time before it was renewed,
Yeah,
I think that it was a little bit. Some episodes were a little bit rushed.
I can
They
see
did
that.
do a good job keeping it pretty ambiguous
Yeah,
with who was going to be the monster, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
Um, and but it was at the end pretty obvious. Like there was a few obvious red herrings. They really tried to draw you in with specific things. I
yeah,
would say the first three episodes were the best part of the show, where they're just
yeah.
basically introducing Wednesday
I thought so too.
and the whole school in general.
Right.
Not a huge fan of Zetta Jones, but I think she did fantastic as Morticia. I think she did.
That's a hot take. Not being a fan of Zeta Jones.
Oh, just like I mean, Ocean's 12, bro.
Oh wow.
just like, just like I mean, there's just
That wasn't all her fault.
no,
Yeah.
it wasn't. But at the same time, it's like I think she did a great job. I'm not sure of the actor's name who played Gomez, but
Louis
gosh, he
Guzman.
did fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's been a lot of like people saying that like, well, he doesn't really because we have like the movie version and all that stuff. Like he doesn't really look
mhm.
like like Raul Julia did in like the movies that
I
we
think
had
he
in the
did great.
'90s. But there's like original concept art for that character from like a long time ago.
He's a little bit bigger.
He looks like him. Yeah. So like I think they just went for like the original look. I do want to say this, and then we can like get into the movie or whatever else you watched. Jenna Ortega is having, or I mean, it's 2023 now, but like she had an incredible year last year. I mean,
She's had to have made
I have never
a
heard of
mint.
her until I haven't heard of her until I saw Scream. That was at the beginning of last year. Wow, it's only been a year since Scream came out. And then all of a sudden, she was just in everything. She's in X, she's in American
Everything.
Carnage, and now she's on Wednesday. She got nominated for a Golden Globe for it. She may win tomorrow. Who knows? Um,
Mhm.
everyone talks about that like viral dance moment from the show, and she did that all in one take because she got COVID and
With
found out
COVID.
later and found out later that she tested positive for it. So they only had time for that one, and she
take.
choreographed the whole thing herself. Like I just love hearing that
Yeah.
she came up with that kind of quirky offbeat thing to do.
I'm with you, dude. I'd never heard of her. I had no idea who she was.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that they make her look like a child in the show. So my only
Yeah.
perspective of her is as basically a child. So I have no idea who she is as like a actress or what she's done before. But I mean, she did spectacular.
We talked about this on the other show, but like my thing is like when they cast her in Scream, I don't think they realized where she was going. And like she's not the lead, she's a co-lead, but like she's not the lead. And like my thing is with this new Scream coming out in March, if you're like the writers and directors, do you play a switcheroo and like make her the lead and maybe kill off her sister? Like I don't know, but like it's like I mean, even when I watch Scream, like not saying the other girl was bad, but like she would be in scenes with her. And I was like, Jenna Ortega is like acting circles around this girl, and I've never heard of her. Like, where the fuck you come from?
Yeah,
but like,
easy for her.
Good for her, man. Like, she's having like an incredible year. And I actually thought
like she tripled or quadrupled her net worth this year, or something like that. Like it's just insane.
Yeah, and I also love that Tim Burton directed these episodes of Wednesday as well. Like, it's good to have him back. It's good to have him back because he kind of was like. It's been a while since he's done anything good, so like, it was good to have him back in that.
Johnny Depp was nowhere to be seen, and Tim Burton's directing something, which is
I know, yeah. But yeah, I thought the show was really good. I kind of like stayed off of it for a little bit because I wasn't sure I would like.
Yeah, it took me a while to get into it, so I finally hit it, and then I couldn't stop watching.
Yep. Yeah. Anything else? Just Wednesday, or did you?
That's pretty much the only new thing that I think I've seen. I've done a bunch of rewatches. I rewatched all the John Wicks since they they were on HBO, and gosh, I love those. I love those movies.
Just talking about how like, I mean, we've talked about before, like how like we'll just text each other and just go like into talking about movies, and like you were talking about like watching that like before I came over last week, and it was just funny to watch like reading the messages. They go from like
the progression,
the progression of like, and then it segues into like other types of movies and like similar things. I know. And then I was like, yo, they're doing a spinoff, and you're like, wait, what? You're like with Anna de Armas. You're like, yeah, that universe is getting bigger and bigger.
It's crazy. I mean, it started with like a cult classic movie, and now it's become like you said, a whole universe.
Yep. All right, so this week is my pick. This is gonna be a little different this time because like even though we both rewatched Prisoners before we did the episode, we had both already previously had seen it. In the case of this movie, I had seen it. Owen hadn't before.
It was my first watch.
So I will tell you what the movie is and what it's about and who's in it. And instead of giving my first story of like when I first saw it, I'll have him do like a little cliff notes, like kind of what he thought of the movie, and then we'll kind of get into more specific things as we go along.
Perfect. All
right, so I chose Igby Goes Down. It was released in limited release on September 13th, 2002, and it stars Kieran Culkin, Claire Danes, Jeff Goldblum, Susan Sarandon, Amanda Peet, Ryan Phillippe, Bill Pullman, and Jared Harris. And it follows the life of Igby Slocum, a rebellious and sardonic teenager who attempts to break free of his family ties and wealthy, overbearing mother. There's a lot more going on, but that's like the main. the main crux of it. It received really good reviews when it was first released. Didn't make a lot of money. We got to touch on that maybe a little bit later, but I think it's kind of found its own life in its years since it was released theatrically. So. I saw this movie when it came out in 2002. This was like first time watch for you. So what were your like initial thoughts about it when you watched it?
All right. So my initial thoughts, it's so funny because I actually did enjoy the movie. I really did. I enjoyed it by the end of it. But the first minute and a half where you're just listening to Sarandon snoring for about 2 minutes full straight. I was thinking, I was like, Gaius, what the hell did you get me into? Like, what?
It's only like a minute and a half
what
in.
What the hell kind of movie are you?
You're like, can you pick
getting me to watch? Here? But I will say that it was a great. I really did enjoy the movie. I think that as a big fan of Kieran Culkin, he did a fantastic job. It's crazy how, thinking about Hollywood, how everyone's so cool with having sex with 17-year-olds or 16-year-olds. Like,
Yeah, right.
that's like a normal
So
thing
I don't know
for
if this will
like
fly
sort of
now.
broken women. It's like when women are sort of in a vulnerable spot, they're like, yeah, I'll just hook up with this teenager. That's a very
Yeah,
interesting thing. Um, but I think it was a great sort of take on rebellion and sort of this New York style of coming from money but not wanting to be a part of it, but also,
yeah,
even if you're not a part of it, what the fuck do you do? And like,
right,
where are you going to go? Do you go to the army? Do you flunk out of the army? Do you become part of the arts? Like, what is your real goal? Like,
right.
you're being bankrolled for all of these years. You have all these people that are surrounding you with opportunities, and for Igby, he just doesn't really give a shit. And
Right.
because he's kind of been handed everything, he's been slapped on the wrist for all of his mistakes. He's never really been um,
Held
put in
accountable.
his place. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like, I think it was just a very interesting take on, and honestly, Ryan Phillippe, oh my God, like I
Yeah.
looked it up. He's like 45 now. Like,
Yeah, it's crazy. So this movie came out at like the height of, I mean, he's still like a working actor. He still does a lot of stuff. But like this was like, he kind of took off in the late 90s, early 2000s, and this was like when he was really popular. And I think it was cool too because he had mostly done like teen movies and stuff.
Was this like
A
a couple
lot.
years before Lincoln Lawyer? Had to have
Like
been.
a few years, yeah, like way
Yeah.
earlier, yeah, and like before that, like his first big movie was I Know You Did Last Summer, and then he did, of course, he did other stuff after that, like Cruel Intentions. He was known for being like a teen guy, and then what was cool about seeing him in this, and we kind of talk about it later, is that he was actually starting to get roles with like really good people, surrounded by
Mhm.
really good actors, and
Yeah.
stuff like this, and to me, like his character in this is almost like a slight extension of his Cruel Intentions character, where it's like pompous and arrogant. Um,
I feel like it's
but
almost meta. Like, it's almost
yeah,
meta
yeah,
before being meta. Like, it's kind
yeah.
of like making fun of the whole movie in general.
And what's funny too is that looking at interviews and stuff with him and like just his Instagram, he's nothing like this in real life. So I always like think it's really cool that he can play like pompous and arrogant like really well. He just has the look for it. His voice, he has like it's like all like the delivery is like
It's like the
perfect for
dry sort of "I'm better than you" sort of
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
speak. He also
yeah.
looks like a white, like
He does.
arrogant
Yeah,
douchebag.
like
I don't know how
yeah,
else to put it.
no, he really does. So my first experience with this movie was actually when it came out. So this was after, of course, after high school, for me, but I had just started going to LA Film School, and this was like when I first started to like pay more attention to like independent movies rather than just like big like blockbusters.
Mhm.
Um, and I had a friend at the time that like really wanted to see this, so they actually really like Kieran Culkin. And I was trying to remember back then, like I don't think I mean, of course I knew he was Macaulay Culkin's brother, but I don't think I paid attention to stuff he really did up to that point.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, he plays his cousin in Home Alone. He's the one that always wets the bed. I don't know why he's not his brother in Home Alone, but yeah,
I
he's his
mean,
cousin in Home
he's
Alone.
younger, right?
Yeah, he's younger.
Yeah.
Um, but like this, I had a friend though that really was into his work, and like because he had just done like the Cider House Rules like right before this, so it was like he kind of was getting more mature roles, and like he went on a different trajectory than his brother. Like his like Macaulay Culkin, I mean, like Home Alone 2, like he did stuff like that, and Kieran Culkin it seemed like he wanted to do like projects that kind of could show that he could really act.
Act. Yeah.
And but yeah, I saw it in theaters. Not I do remember that there weren't a lot of people there, so that probably gives you an impression of like how the movie actually did.
I feel like it's
Uh,
still sort of an indie movie, so I can kind
yeah,
of understand like the marketing probably wasn't extensive.
right. I ended up really liking it, and I think you'll kind of hear this comparison a lot, but it gets compared a lot to The Catcher in the Rye.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's, the book by J.D. Salinger, and like Holden Caulfield is like not exactly like Igby, but they have very similar, like, the world around them. They just don't understand, and they
Yeah.
have a lot of commentary about the world around them. And I used to love that book in high school, and it does kind of feel like it's its own kind of like little loose adaptation of that.
He also
But
does get like the system does kind of fuck him. Like he
yeah,
does kind of get screwed over. So I
yeah,
completely understand why he, as Igby, kind of understands that he feels like everything is kind of crashing around him.
yeah. Um, and I think it's interesting too, like as a character, because I think he believes that he's so much more grown up than he is, and that he's smarter than everyone around him, and maybe he is in certain ways. But I do love there are certain moments in the movie where it's like, no, like you're clearly not like a man yet. You're still like, in a lot of ways, you're a child. You really do need to kind of
Yeah.
grow up. Um, Even though like he doesn't have the best examples around him. At all
Yeah.
whatsoever.
I mean,
Because
I'll put it this way. It's like he had to grow up really quickly. Like he was
right,
put in a position where he had to grow up like pretty much immediately and
yeah,
become mature in a certain sense. But then once you reach like a certain point, like he didn't have any male figureheads in his life. So there wasn't anything necessarily to base his like moral code and becoming a man post
right,
16, 17 years old. Like he didn't have any sort of like way to figure out like what's my next step. He had to grow up
exactly,
and he became this. And then
right,
he was just kind of that. And he's like, well, there's no real consequence for my actions. I see
right.
all these rich people doing fucked up things, and so I guess I can do fucked up things and get away with it too.
Yep, I agree. It's funny that you brought up the thing with the story, because like at the start of the movie, of course we find out later what's really going on. That it's like basically like an assisted kind of suicide thing for the mother, and she
Yeah.
wants and she wants Igby to be there, and she also wants her other son to be there as well. And you find out later why it was kind of important for him to be there. But he hates his mother. And there's a lot of reasons why he probably should. We learn very early on that she probably wasn't the most like loving person. There's also that the relationship that she has with his dad, or with Bill Pullman's character,
Mhm.
also very fractured. And like, is it because she's just so like unattentive, and like she doesn't really like, it's all about like appearances, right? Like she's all about, and I think that's why I think it's interesting that like Igby like tries to reject that lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be like his brother. And I think the reason that his brother is like he is, because he feels like he needs to be that way in order to like kind of keep the peace a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I see how she treats him, and I'm gonna do the exact opposite of that, so
Yep.
that she'll basically like kind of like always love me, basically.
Yeah.
Um, that was the kind of
Or he's
impression I got.
faultless
Yeah,
or
right.
whatever it is.
But yeah, like that's how we meet them. It's a very interesting way to start a movie. Like you said, you were like, "What the hell am I watching?" Um,
Yeah. It was. I definitely
but
was taken aback. I'll tell you that.
but I think that goes a long way to kind of show. You also see it in other scenes, like just to show like how quirky and weird and kind of fucked up the family is a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and we also get the impression like when she finds out that he's like flunking, and like I love when like it's when she enters the room and you can like feel her presence before you even like see
Oh
her,
yeah.
and the way she stares him down, kind of like what the fuck did you do now? And and then like he's just such a smart ass with her, and then like when they go out in the hallway and she's like hitting it with her glove because she's so mad, like where else am I
Yeah.
gonna like where else can I put you now? Like what, like everywhere we've tried to like do for you, like you
Well,
like
yeah.
think it's
I
a
mean, it
joke.
even shows in the military school where they're smoking weed, and
Right.
like if he's doing this shit in military school, getting away with it, and still like being found in his own bed by the whatever it is, the captain or
I
the
mean, yeah,
general or whatever it is. Um, like if he's doing this in military school, like he's been getting
yeah,
away with shit for a long time.
a long time. Um, I also feel like he feels like he's justified in the things that he does because of how she treats him, because of how he was raised.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's cool, like even in a few short scenes where he has with, or you go back and forth with Bill Pullman, because he's not in it a lot,
Hmm.
but like you get the impression that that was the only like kind of meaningful like loving relationship that he kind of had growing up. But then he's also like kind of afraid because like you know he
What
ended
if
up
I end up
going
like
like
my dad?
yeah, he ended up going mad. Basically, he had like a full on nervous like breakdown. So
Yeah.
he kind of he also stays in that space where he's, I think, worried that that is also his. I don't think he thinks he has like a lot of good options as far as like where his life is gonna take him basically.
Yeah.
And
No, I totally agree.
and I but I what I love about the movie too is that these are very serious themes, but like they do tackle them in a really like kind of funny way too. I mean, like it is like a dark comedy almost. So like
Yeah,
uh
I found myself laughing, but I also found myself like kind of thinking about how messed up the whole thing was. I mean,
yeah.
like I was saying, like the woman who Igby like hooks up with sort of in the beginning at the art school. First of all, the guy
Gonna,
from Chernobyl, gosh, what's his name?
which one?
Um, the guy who plays the artist.
Oh, Jared Harris. Is it Russell? Yeah,
He's
he's
hilarious
hilarious.
in that. He's
So I
really
mean,
good. But
yeah,
like he's like
awesome.
totally cool with this teenager just like crashing and like hooking up with this 20 or 20 something year old like heroin addict.
Heroin
Like
addict.
it's totally cool. And then like Igby's cool with it, but then I mean like he falls in love with this other girl who's sort of his age, but then his brother's like, well, if you can get her, then I can get
Get
her.
her.
And then
Yeah.
he kind of goes after her, and then she falls in love with him because he's successful and Igby's not. It's like
Right.
there's just so many things that sort of are very realistic, but also done in a way enough where you feel really bad for them, but also like it is comical.
Yeah, it is. Come on. Speaking of Amanda Peet, who plays Rachel, the heroin addict, who I don't know, she kind of made heroin chic look pretty hot when they first introduced her.
She
Like
did.
she's like, yeah. And before they completely like string her out, she actually, I can see the appeal, and like what he
Yeah.
like they have that like when DH is Godfather, and we learn later, yeah, that's a whole nother story too. But Jeff Goldblum's character, when he introduces her to him, it's just like he instantly is like staring her down, and the way she like just
Just like
walks by,
enthralled.
yeah, just completely enthralled. And DH knows that he's also like enthralled. um,
Yeah. But also, what
uh,
is he gonna do? He's married. DH is.
right, exactly. And but I mean, Jeff Goldblum, who I don't
Such
care.
a
I think
role
so.
that I did not expect him to be in, but I loved him
No,
in it.
like and
He's
like
so good.
he's really good, right? So there's always this like argument that Jeff Goldblum like kind of plays himself. I mean, I think that's just his personality, right? His line delivery, the way he does things, that's just him. But if you do it well, then like why fucking change it? Like he's like really, I mean, that's why people love him.
I believe his character a lot. I really think that even though he did sort of have aspects of himself, it's not like a typical, like we've talked about Downey Jr., where it's just almost exactly the same every single time. I believe that Goldblum was like a sort of rich snob who was married to an older woman and wanted to sleep around and had
Yeah,
money to throw around, and he had this young sort of protege that he wanted to groom. But
yeah,
like I believe his character, and I
yeah.
think that like I didn't necessarily see Jurassic Park Jeff
Jeff
Goldblum in
Goldblum,
this
yeah,
movie.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's just amazing, dude. Like almost everything that he's in, and like watching him in this, I also thought the scene that is really sad and it's like really a short one is like when Amanda Pete's character like she changes how she looks to like almost look like his wife because thinking
hmm
that'll like make him want to stick around. And when she goes to see him at that restaurant and he just stares at her like this is not like
what I
what
signed
I
up. This is
like
not what I'm doing
before,
it for.
and then he just leaves. Like
Gets up and leaves.
doesn't say anything to her, and like it's just like a really like sad moment for her. I think that's like the last scene she's in too.
Well, I also took it too as like she was slipping down the range because she was hiding her scars on her
Yeah,
elbows and everything, or her
yeah,
whatever it was. And like I feel like she was kind of like that was sort of the like pulling at the reins of the relationship. Like she was
right,
pulling out all the stops to try and like probably try to save it. And he was like, what am I really in this for? And
right,
then she's like, well, I'm going to try and look like your wife. He's like, well, that's not why I'm with you.
right. That's true. And like, so a lot of people I know have watched it have asked why does she sleep with Igby? Um, I thought it was kind of just obvious. Like she's a fucking drug addict and she's messed up and she wanted to like make herself feel better. I actually watched the commentary on this movie after I watched it
Mm.
recently, and I didn't really pay attention to this, but like I guess during that whole sex scene, like they made it a point that like she wouldn't be like affectionate towards him, like, and if he tried,
She was
I guess
just
like
using him.
yeah, and I guess like when they directed it, like Kieran Culkin like initially tried to be affectionate, and she wouldn't let him, like in character wouldn't let him, and that's kind of shows like that it wasn't like this like hot moment for her, like she was just using him, and like
Yeah.
she needed to feel better. Like there was like they even say that she doesn't even really like look him in the eye either. Like she's just kind of like it's purely just sex and that's it, because she just wants to feel better about herself. And then he's
Yeah. I
17, so
mean,
why would he do it?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. So it's
Yeah,
like, I mean, for her, it was like a free pass.
right. And of course, there were rules that he there was things that he wasn't supposed to do. There was like a contract he had with DH.
Hmm.
Uh, I this is why I think Judge Bolden was really good. When he realizes that what's been going on, and he ends up like beating up Igby like outside of the
Yeah.
apartment, like that guy's face goes to like a dark place, like
It
right
goes from like,
away.
I've been supporting you, like whatever you need, to fuck you.
Yeah, like you can't like even though he's like wrong, but
Well, and then you
can't sleep with
realize
my
that that's his
mistress.
dad.
Yeah, yeah, and like what's funny though,
That
like
totally threw me for a loop. Like
when they
that was just like something that seemed like it was just thrown in at the end.
yeah when they drop that tidbit, it's such a throwaway line that you're like, is she telling the
I was
truth?
like, what?
But then you realize like who she
I was like,
is,
yeah, duh.
and like she's totally telling the truth, and she's like, you
Yeah.
probably know that DH is your father, like
Because to
and she's
her
like,
it's so
what?
obvious, but he's like, what?
Yeah, and I love the way it's about like she's eating the yogurt too, just in between bites, like just drops
Ridiculous.
this like bombshell on him. Uh,
Yeah.
I I love the scenes where like he initially meets like Claire Danes' character, and like
Hmm.
she clearly wants nothing to do with him. I also love her name in the movie, Silky Saperstein, which is like I don't know if you can get
I
much.
felt their dialogue was a little. I felt their dialogue was a little bit awkward.
Oh, in the beginning,
Like
when
just
they
in terms
first
of the
met.
writing. Like I felt like most of the dialogue was maybe not necessarily realistic, but like it felt like it flowed pretty well. I don't necessarily think that the chemistry between her and Kieran was like 100%. That those were some of the only scenes where I was like, like let's ramp
Yeah,
through this, like when they're at the diners with the Sunday. I was like, I don't really feel like they even like each other, or like this just doesn't seem believable. It wasn't really. That was kind of the one part of the movie where I was just like not really convinced or really
yeah.
enjoying it.
So do you think it was more like an issue with like writing or like the performances themselves? Because
Um,
I think they're individually good in the movie, like both of
Yeah, I
them.
mean, I think she does a. I mean, her performance when like Igby's at the door, when
Oh yeah,
Phillippe is like in the same room and he's like, "Yo, you gotta leave" or
yeah, yeah,
whatever it is. That whole scene is incredible.
yeah,
But like, I guess I'll go with the writing then, because I think she does a great job.
yeah. I think like I think there's scenes later, like I mean, you talked about the one at the diner. I think those work better than like their introduction scenes with each other.
Hmm.
Um, but I can kind of see like maybe dialogue maybe sounding like a little forced at times between them.
Yeah, a little bit.
In the beginning. It's interesting what you said about the chemistry though. I thought they had decent like I bought them at least as friends. I maybe not as like anything more than that, but like I thought they played off each other like better as they went along, as they had more scenes together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
So like not early on. Like early on, I was like, what the hell is this relationship gonna be?
yeah, what I do love about the dialogue eventually when they are at the party and it's just like Amanda Peet and her and Ryan Phillippe, all their
Mhm.
dialogue exchanges are pretty good. And then the whole time Amanda Peet is just like putting her cigarette out in his like wine glass,
Yeah.
and
Oh
then
God, so good.
and then she like drops it and he like takes a sip of it and then just spits it back out when he realizes like what he's been drinking.
Oh, it's so
Um,
good.
and then you can kind of tell like people go back and forth about his brother, if he's kind of if he's a snake right away, just trying to like get her attention away from him.
Immediately, I would say.
Um, the only reason I don't think he's a total snake, and I think that because I think the scene where he is seducing her in his own way, and he's telling that story about like growing up and like the cigarettes in the drawer and all that stuff. He's actually, I think, telling a genuine like story about like something that bothered him, but he is using it in a way that like in order to seduce her. So I don't know if that really makes him a snake if it's coming from like a. I think he needed to tell someone that story too, and if that just so happened to like, you know, get the girl, then it did.
True.
But yeah, I don't like. It's hard for me. Like, I don't think he's a snake at all. I think he does. I mean, you can tell later in the movie that he does have kind of some
I disagree with you there.
See, I think he does have some affection for his brother, though. I mean, maybe like.
I mean, I know he has affection for Igby, but it's like he obviously knows that Igby's into this girl, saw him in bed with her, and then still continues to go after her, and it's kind of like, I need to do this because like
it actually did it.
My brother can't have something that I can't have.
I think he did it like the day he found them together.
Yeah,
like, so
it was either the day of or the day after.
Yeah, and went home with her. Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to see if I picture him as like a total snake. I mean, I guess he does. I mean, I guess he does what he needs to do to like, but it's almost like in a weird way he like does that stuff to his brother to kind of like almost remind him like, yo, you're still a child. Like you're playing like adult games and trying to be an adult. But like, you know, I think Roger Ebert in his review of this movie said that like Claire Danes' character is a girl that falls for a guy who like will make her laugh. But what happens when like that guy just isn't funny anymore? And that's what kind of happens with like, Igby. Like it's fun and funny in the beginning, and then she's like, we're not on the same like level at all. And like, you know,
halfway.
You know, his brother was like they were very much in line with each other, like same age, going to school, like doing the best for their lives, and like there was no way she was gonna stick around with like Igby while he's like trying to figure out his stuff. And like, but I think for a time, I think she did like him. I just think that like,
no,
you know,
I think her feelings were definitely genuine. Like, but I mean, it's like when you have to choose sort of your future versus some fun, like at a certain age, you got to choose the future.
Right. And you brought up that moment between them when he's outside her door. I think they're both like, they both kill that scene, like absolutely kill that scene. They were both really good in it.
I think that's the best scene in the movie.
It is. I think it's the best scene in the movie too. They're both like completely going for it and pull it off. Now everyone kind of makes fun of the Claire Danes ugly cry because like she's not the best looking crier ever. There's actually like compilation videos of her ugly crying where people make fun of it. It's like so
no way.
It's so bad. But you know, very good in the scene and very I think good in the movie. But it's interesting to kind of hear your take on like their relationship though, like how you didn't really completely like, you know, totally get the chemistry between those two.
Yeah, it just felt forced in like automatically, even on the beach. I mean, he confronts her and she's kind of like, I don't really want anything to do with you, but he kind of like forces it, and then he's like, I guess I'll hang out with you, and then she kind of feels like she wants to be rebellious, and Igby's the perfect person to be in that situation. And then once she doesn't want to be rebellious, then she kind of sets him off to his deals. So.
Yeah. Speaking of the guy who plays Russell, I love when Igby, like, you know, he needs a job and he starts like, I guess like doing drug deals for Russell.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like a teacher.
And I love that one, but I love the scene in the elevator when he's like trying to drop like what the code word is so they'll let him in. And they're like going back and forth, and then the one girl pops up on the phone and she's like, "Oh, I think it's for the drugs." She's like, "Oh yeah, the drugs." Like, come on up. And that one lady's in the elevator, like listen to it.
And like the old woman or the woman next to him is just like, Jesus, what the hell?
Yeah, what the hell is going on? You know what? I think the movie as a whole, right? Like, because I feel like the movie in general is just like a series of like moments more than like kind of like a straightforward like narrative, I guess. But you know, I think, God, I mean, I don't think I was definitely not like this growing up, but I think every teenager kind of like, of course, when they're like 17, like they think they are kind of like adults, like we have it all figured out, we can do these kind of things on our own.
Every teenager goes through that moment where it's like, I know everything, and like you can't tell me, not necessarily you can't tell me what to do, but it's like, I know what's right, and like you think you know what's better for yourself than your parents and your siblings or whatever anyone else is telling you. You think you know what you're doing is right. And
Right.
especially when you're 16, 17, and then you go and live in a new place and
Yeah.
some girls hooking up with you and people are giving you
Yep.
money and giving you jobs. And it's like, you kind of feel like you're on top of the world.
Right. And I want to ask you this. Do you like, considering his upbringing, like, everything he kind of grew up around, like, do you think like it kind of is fair that he kind of ended up the way that he is at that point that we get introduced to him at 17, where he just kind of like, you know, I kind of feel like he, like, a little bit of a victim of like circumstance. Like, I mean, if you have a family like that, I mean, that will shape you in a really like, it could be in a negative way or positive way, but like, if he's trying to reject all the things that he hates about like
Yeah.
how he grew up, like, do you kind of think he's justified in like some of his behavior? Like, it's like, you know,
I mean, it's
I
the whole question of like nature versus nurture, and like
right,
whether or not he was kind of always like this, a rebellious soul from the beginning, or was it mostly because of the way he was brought up? And
right,
I mean, there's a lot of things that he does that are pretty unforgivable in terms of just like the law and like sort of like just like
breaking the
things
law.
that you shouldn't like, just like things you shouldn't do in general. So like I
Yeah,
totally understand where I don't agree with a lot of those things, but like I have a very hard time saying that um like he wouldn't have been any different if he had been, or like he would have been different if he had been brought up in a different like family or whatever it was. Because I
right,
think that he probably would have if he had been loved, and because he's a very smart kid. He's got a
yeah,
brother that's also smart and successful, and like if he had just like aspired to be like his brother loved him, his mother loved him, his dad loved him, whatever it was.
right,
There's like a whole lot of different aspects and different sort of ways to think about it in terms of like what would he have been like if circumstances had been different.
right.
But I don't know. It's hard to forgive what he did. I mean, it's like,
Right.
you know,
I'm gonna ask you this too, because I've talked to certain people who have seen it like over the years and stuff, and I know a few people that they liked the movie, but they didn't find him likable. So that made it kind of hard for them to like really latch
he's
on to
like an
him.
anti-hero.
Yeah, and like I mean, I'm watching it. I think maybe because he's just funny, he has like a sense of humor about everything. Like, I don't think there's anything like not likable about him. Like for me, like it's I think you still like you still kind of root for him in some ways. Like, all right, like
Yeah.
he'll figure it out. But yeah, I know people that watched it that were like, oh, like he almost got on their nerves. Like
Mm.
they found him to be a little bit unlikable.
But also that
Um,
could just be Kieran Culkin.
that could just be Kieran Culkin. That could just be him. Yeah, I mean,
Because I feel that
yeah,
way when I'm watching Succession sometimes. I'm like, all right, bro,
that's just
turn
you.
it down. Turn
It's
it down.
just it's your delivery. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I can kind of see that too, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I
uh,
don't think he was unlikable. I think that his character was well written enough that that was exactly what was expected.
yeah, no, I agree. I think they do a good job of like kind of setting you up, like, this is why he is the way he is.
Mm.
Um, but I also love to like even if you are like someone that grew up and is like, like you feel like you were like a Holden Caulfield or an Igby, like the world doesn't understand me, like I think I'm
Yeah.
smarter than everyone. There are gonna be people that like identify with that really well, right? Because there are
Yeah.
a lot of kids who feel that way. Um, I do like though that they, like I said before, I do like that they make it a point though to show that like he thinks he's smarter than everyone like around him, and like the world just doesn't quite understand him, but like there's still moments where it's important that we need to, like, he's a kid, and and I think he learns that through different stages of the movie, that like I said, you're trying to play adult games and you're not an adult, which is like,
Well, it's also too where it's like he thinks he's like, oh, I don't have any emotion towards my family, but then when all these real things happen, he
yeah,
feels a lot,
he
and
feels a
he
lot.
really feels a lot of emotion, and he shows it. So I think that
Yeah,
like that's sort of the thing where it's like you think that you're above these things, where in terms of like I hate my mother, I wish she was gone and dead, but once she is, it's like, well, you really did have this one spot in your life and this person in your life that did have something there for you, and now
Yeah.
it's not there anymore.
So I think like the other than the scene with the door, when he like breaks down after they successfully do the whole like assisted
And
suicide
he
thing with the
beats her
mom.
up, her dead body.
But like I remember when I first saw it, I remember like I think one of the scenes before that, the last scene he has with Claire Danes, like where he basically said like the fact that he won't be able to tell her how much he like despises her before she dies, like
Mm.
like that was gonna really bother him. But like I did not expect it to be like the complete opposite of that, where it was like this, like you said, like this small moment of like what there's some kind of love there because he doesn't like he doesn't beat her up to tell her like pound on her to tell her like how much he hates her. He ends up whispering like I'm
He
sorry
wants her
because
to
like
lie. He wants her to
yeah
live. Yeah.
yeah, and he says I'm sorry because like I think he kind of sees that like maybe he did do like she was guilty of things too, but maybe he did things that certainly didn't make it easier
On her.
for on her at all. And not saying that she's a saint because we know she's not, because like she's not a likable person
The
at all.
furthest thing from.
But I really like that they did that, where it was like he like again showing that like he's a kid, he just lost his mother, and like there was a small part of him that like loved her, and like now she's gone. And then honestly, sometimes when someone you like, I think when someone you kind of despise like that, like in his own words, like once they're gone and then you have nowhere else to like put all that like
Turn
anger,
or
all that, yeah, like
yeah.
where do you go from there?
Where do you
I think that
vent?
was like, yeah,
Who do you let
and
it
I
out on?
exactly, and that was the one person he could, uh, and now she's gone, and I
Well,
thought
because
they,
it was against her and he could just
yeah,
say it to her face. Now it's
right,
like you
right,
can't tell some random person that you hate your mother because they're just going to be like, okay. Whereas she would always give it back to him. She would always sort of banter with him. And like now that's going to
yeah,
be gone forever.
and now that's gone, yeah, completely, and I just thought it was a really well written like moment. Like I'm glad that like
Yeah.
it wasn't just like, oh, I didn't get to tell her like how much I hated her. Like he was just like, it seemed like it was the opposite. He didn't get to tell her that he actually like loved her and like in a weird, fucked up family way that they had going on. I mean, like
Yeah.
there was still like love uh somewhere there.
I mean, we already said it, but I still think the weirdest thing was just like, oh, yeah, DH is your father. If you
Yeah.
didn't know.
So
just like at the end, just like so random.
It's so random, right? And like
it's like the thing that's crazy though is like when she says it, you as the audience, you're just like, yeah, no shit.
yeah, you're like, yeah, of course.
Like you're like, yeah, of course, but like it's just so like out of the blue and just kind of like, oh yeah, by the way, just wanted to confirm this.
And right, it's such like what would be like a really big plot point in any other movie.
Yeah,
like
it's like
you just, but to the credit of Susan Sarandon, it's just her delivery of it is like
so
amazing.
nonchalant.
Just like, oh, I take it that you know DH is your father. Like he's like, what?
But you already knew that, didn't you? It's like,
know,
well, yeah, I guess.
and you're right. And you're right though. Like as the audience though, when you're watching it, you're like, yeah, yeah. Like
You're like,
totally
I knew that, but like, I guess I really know that now.
No, it makes sense. That's why he was totally invested in him. That's why he always like tried to like pay for everything. Tried to take him off of Mimi's hands whenever he could, like whenever he would like screw up.
Well, it's funny because Phillippe actually looks more like the other dad than
Bill
Igby
Pullman.
does.
He does. He really does.
Casting
And,
was
like,
really well done.
Yeah, and it really was. And I also love too, like like Igby says, like it'd be disingenuous for me to like stay for like the funeral and all that, and can basically telling the brother, can you handle things the way that you always handle things? And
Yeah.
like you could tell that they have affection for each other, but I love when they go in for the hug and then like they drop the glass and it breaks. It's like, all right, like the one time that we can actually we tried. And like, and then he just like pounds him and then he's like, well done. like
Yeah.
like I thought that was
They
like
they have their relationship and it probably won't change. It'll be like sort of an awkward, like you handle things, I'm the fuck up, but like we still love each other.
yeah. And like I also thought it was a really good line too, where like she tells Ryan Phillippe's character in the middle of the movie, like she's like very disappointed in how like because he wasn't a good brother to Igby, and like basically you should have looked out for
Yeah.
him more. And then like when she goes back in the bathroom to throw up because she's sick from like getting cancer, like and he just has that under the breath line of like, and yet like you're the one that he hates.
And yet you're the one that he always hates. Yeah.
yeah, like you know, actually like, and I know like they don't really go into like his character a lot, but I got the impression like too, like I said earlier, like I think that he shaped his life, his persona to like not to upset the routine, which is like basically be like the anti Igby in order to like
Yeah.
appease the mother and like just do everything that
Well, I
she
think that too, like at that point, they're both playing the blame game. It's like
right
everything Igby's fault. It's like you're not a good brother. It can't be me. I can't be a bad mother. I can't be a bad brother because
right
I'm like he hates you. And she's like, well, you didn't do enough as a brother. That's why he hates me. And like all these different things, they're just trying to push the blame onto someone else. They're not
yeah
really trying to take accountability for anything they've actually done.
yeah. I also thought, and this might be me being petty. I mean I guess it's cool that him and Claire Danes have that like one last scene to kind of show that they're still friendly. I just thought he kind of like I wouldn't be as forgiving. I don't think. I mean, he does make
No,
the
no,
yeah,
not
yeah,
at
yeah.
all.
He does make the comment that he was really mad at her for like a month. I forgot how long it was, but like, and then he kind of got over it,
They really
and
just
and
brushed over it.
they brush over it, and they just start talking like basically like she almost like in a flirty way, like, "Do you still like me?" Like we like basically still be friends. And I don't know. I thought she got too. I mean, I guess that one scene where like she tells him to go away, and maybe that was like all that we needed. Like, but like I don't know. I thought he was like a little too like forgiving of that whole situation. Like I don't
Yeah,
know if
it
I don't know if I
felt
would have
sort
a
of
chocolate sundae with her after
yeah. No, maybe I mean that might show his age. I don't know.
yeah. I guess it's especially bad because she actually knew how he felt about his brother. Like I mean, he talked
Yeah,
to her about like
she knew
like
that he hated his brother, and then they weren't necessarily together. But then she went and slept with his brother like a
yeah,
day after they hooked
up, yeah, yeah. I guess only in New York. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
uh, but yeah, but I do like that. Like the again, like Bill Pullman's not in the movie like a ton, but he has like a couple really good scenes. Like when he has this like breakdown in the shower, I thought that was like really really good, and that's actually Kieran's little brother Rory Culkin playing him as a
Really?
little boy. Yeah, I thought that scene was really good, and I also like how it ends where he just goes to see his father at the end, and like
Yeah.
you know it's something that he needed to do, and like it's
Hmm.
I think
Closure.
he comes to a place where like he accepts uh the cards that he was dealt. I think where he's
Yeah.
just like this is maybe I should stop complaining about it and actually do something with my life. It's like I think we've all known that person that like thinks the world like owes them something.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and I feel like he is that person. Like, and like some people will feel that way. Like if they feel like they were dealt a bad hand, like the universe wasn't fair to them. Like they think that like I I had it rough, so like I deserve like whatever attention I want and whatever like
Yeah.
everyone owes me something. And I think he gets to a point by the end where he's aware that like maybe everyone doesn't, and like he has to
Yeah.
like kind of figure things out
It's not always
on
that way.
himself. Yeah, and he has to figure out things on his own,
Hmm.
basically. Uh, and I'm glad they kind of wrote it that way. I'm glad that you don't live in this like kind of space where like it'd be easy to write that movie and write that character, whereas like yeah, everything he says is right. Like everyone around him is like his brother's an asshole. His mom was like unattentive. Like
And
it'd
then
be
he
easy
leaves
to
the movie
make.
with like two middle fingers
Yeah,
up,
and
kind
like
of saying, yeah,
and
but he
it could
doesn't.
yeah, it could totally go that way if they wanted it to. I'm glad that they actually had him like learn something uh
Yeah.
about himself and yeah, about life in general. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have it all figured out when you're 17 years old, even if you think you're like the
Far
smartest
from
person
it.
in the room. You think you're the
Even
smartest
though
person
when
in
I
the
was
room.
17, I definitely thought I had a lot figured out.
No, I think so too. I mean, I think we all kind of did. Like we were like we're feeling like we're adults. We're
Hmm.
definitely not though.
Like I
Like
want
I
to be
know
on my own, and then you're an
and then
actual
you get
adult.
the
You're like, wow, this kind of
yeah.
fucking is hard.
Like no one told me about all this like
This
stress
is
and
tough. This
yeah.
is really tough.
Wait, take me back to high school. um,
Seriously.
but yeah, I mean like uh overall I love like I love the writing for the movie. I think the acting is really good. Of course, like looking back at it now, it's crazy. Like Kieran Culkin is like become a huge thing on Succession. He like
Hmm.
nominated for some Emmys for like uh that performance on that show.
Hmm.
I don't think it's a stretch to say that he is the best actor of the Culkin family that has chosen
No,
to act.
he's the best.
um,
He's
he's
the best.
um I always wonder though, because like Macaulay Culkin, like he had it rough growing up a bit. Like his mom, I mean, mostly his dad. His dad was like a stage dad, and like basically like
Michael.
bullied his. Yeah, he bullied his way into like yeah, basically yeah, basically that. Um, I don't know if Kieran went through that. He doesn't really talk about it. I don't think like Macaulay Culkin ended up like divorcing himself. He got emancipated, and that's not something I
Yeah.
don't think Kieran Culkin did. I don't know if it's just like it was just different stages where like he could have ownership of his career without his parents being involved too much. Like, but it is interesting to see like what paths they kind of went on as far as like
Yeah.
as actors. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I think Kieran definitely went the stronger route. Waited his time.
yeah,
And picked the roles that he wanted to do rather than being shoved into it from an early age and kind of being coerced into certain roles or coerced into bed at
right.
Neverland by Michael. Sorry. Um, so yeah, I mean that could be an influence. Who knows?
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I think
try not to laugh at that.
at the end of the day, I mean, I think that like it's just tough to really compare them because their acting careers started at such different trajectories. I mean, Macaulay started off fucking
Yeah, I
high as
mean
hell,
he
just
came
like
out of
right off the bat
out the gate.
immediately, but
Yeah,
like at what, like 9 or 10 years old. So
yeah,
it's like it's really hard to really compare them in terms of what they've done since. But like I mean, what they've done since, Kieran definitely has been more successful.
yep. Oh, I also love this too. Kieran Culkin was age appropriate when he made Igby Goes Down. He was actually 17. I think that helps a lot to
He
like
had a lot of
actually
nude
have.
scenes.
Yeah, so I don't know how that works either. Like how do
Was this
you have
before
to
they had what do they call it now? They have a like a specific person on set now. It's
oh like
like
it's an intimacy coach.
intimacy director or something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
don't think they
I
had that
wonder,
back
this is
then.
this is definitely before then, where they're just
I
like, "Yo, Kieran, you cool? All right, don't get a boner. All right,
well it yeah.
and action."
So like I was listening to the commentary. Like it's Kieran and the director, right? I mean, I maybe it's because like it's a Hollywood actor thing, but the way the director was talking to him, it was like he was talking to like a 25-year-old. He wasn't really talking
Yeah,
to like a 17-year-old. Um, and they kind of like talked about those scenes while they were on, and didn't really like make it seem like it was like awkward to do
anything
them or
weird.
yeah. But like I had to
It
imagine
was just
like
acting.
yeah, and like uh he did say thankfully, I guess the first scene that he had with Amanda Peet wasn't that. It was the scene at the party. And then they had their
Sex
sex
scene.
scene. Yeah. And he was just like, I'm so glad that like we at least got to like introduce ourselves in like that
Shoot
one
something
normal scene.
first.
Yeah, and one normal scene and not have to like go right into that. Um but yeah, the movie was not financially successful when it came out. Uh $12 million budget, only made $9 million, but it was a small
Mm,
independent movie. But Kieran Culkin was nominated for a Golden Globe
really?
for his role here, and Susan Sarandon was as well. Um, it got really good reviews when it came out. I don't know, it's just one of those ones that I guess didn't catch on really when like it was released, even though it has a pretty good like ensemble cast and like
Yeah.
uh, I'm not sure why it didn't really.
It's kind of cult classic sort of thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess like, and also it, like you said, like when you started it, you were like, "What the hell did he make me watch?"
I know. Honestly, when I first started watching it, I was like, "What the fuck is this movie?"
You're gonna be, you're
I was
probably
like,
thinking
I
like,
have to watch it. I was like, I
you
have to watch this.
you were probably like, "Can we go back to our original idea where only I pick the movies?"
I
You don't
know,
have to.
seriously. I was like, I could have been watching like anything else right now.
And then like, well, it's funny though when I rewatched it, I'm thinking like, I wonder if he's gonna think like some of this is weird. I was like, he probably will, but like if he gets
Honestly,
through
only
it,
the first 3 minutes, I was just like, what is this movie? And then I actually thoroughly enjoyed it by the end.
yeah, and like I'm glad that you ended up liking it. I mean, it is quirky. It's a bit offbeat, um, but like those type of movies are fun. I think
I agree.
like and like we've talked about this before with like coming of age stories. This is a coming of age story in its own unique kind of way.
Yeah,
Um, those kind of I think for me hit the hardest, even if they're like funny, even if they're like not like dramatic. Um,
it's definitely a little dark.
it is dark, and I think and it's a credit to uh the writer and director, because he wrote and directed the movie. Um it's hard to strike that balance of like doing the dark humor and then also having like genuine like emotional like dramatic moments. I think
Connections.
it's hard to make that work in a movie like this sometimes. And I
Hmm.
think for the most part, like he made it work. Like he made it
I think so too.
bouncy from like the type of humor that it had, and then like kind of going into like more serious areas where it didn't feel like jarring at all. It felt like very effortless and like seamless, I thought. And I think that's kind of hard to do with movies like this. Like
Totally understand why
yeah,
like they did it that way, because they
right,
kind of went through like a whole year.
right, right,
Um, yeah, so it was like a very interesting way to kind of take over a whole year. Um,
right.
so I think that I mean, for what, in terms of the time period, like the time frame, I think they did really well.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I like fully believe that it feels more like a series of moments rather than just one straight like narrative. Like I feel like you identify more with like certain scenes more than like maybe the movie as a whole. Uh, but
Yeah,
but I think like those individual moments are still really like strong though. Like they're
yeah.
really like they're still really solid. Um,
I will
you know,
say, like, it's funny because one of my favorite scenes is the scene where, like, him at the door of what's her name again? The
oh, Claire Danes, but
Claire Danes, yeah.
Sookie in the movie.
So him at the door with Claire Danes, and Ryan Phillippe's in the room with him. I kind of get like flashes of the OC.
Oh, really?
I kind of like can kind of just like see this being like a moment in the OC. And like I totally just like when I was watching it, I was like, this feels like fucking Ryan from the OC
Yeah. There's
banging
crying,
on
and there's
fucking
crying
Marissa's
Marissa.
door.
Marissa.
Marissa's door. Oh God.
Oh man, I'm gonna like start looking at certain movies differently now. Like looking back on that, I'm like, yeah, I guess that does feel very like teen show, like,
It
but
does. It
it
does.
was still well done. It was still really well acted
No, it
though.
was
I
a
mean,
great
like,
scene, but it was just I remember thinking about it afterwards. I was like, that was very like TBC,
yeah,
TNT.
like a little CW, a little
Yeah.
CW. Um, dude, I love though, like, even though they have the biggest like dramatic moments in that scene, just how cold Ryan Phillippe is when he walks out the door and just like
Yeah.
looks down on him and just is like, "You're just a glutton for punishment, aren't you?" And then like,
Yeah.
just like, I mean,
He's like, you don't understand what you're doing.
you have no, again, you're playing adult games and you're a child. Like that's what he was
Yeah.
basically trying to like
Yeah.
to show him, and like, some people need hard lessons like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
they weren't the kind of family that like kind of give those lessons out of love. It would seem like they
No.
like like not at all.
They do it
Uh,
through experience,
but yeah,
not through talking. They do it through showing you.
yeah, I agree. Um, but yeah, I think we covered almost everything. Now this is a really different movie to cover than like say Prisoners, because like there's not like uh there aren't like a ton of plot points in Igby Goes Down where you're like, oh, I need to dissect this moment and like this is why this is happening. It's more of like you're driven by like kind of like what the overall themes are, and then like
Yeah.
rather than like plot, breaking
Yeah,
down
yeah. No, no, no. I totally
the
agree.
entire
I
the
mean,
entire
every
plot.
movie's going to be different. We don't have to do it like there's no
Oh, I know, of
rubric
course,
for how we're going to dissect movies.
right, and and I
Each
think
one's
it's
going to
cool.
be reviewed in a different way. So we can't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
necessarily have like 5 questions that we have to answer for each movie.
No, it's true. And then like there's gonna be episodes where it's like, with a microscope, we're like, oh, look
Yeah.
at that moment. And then there's something like more straightforward like this, where it's just like just the overall experience of like watching it. Um, I couldn't find a lot of fun facts about the movie. Um, it was one of the it did shoot it's one of the last movies that shot in New York City though, before nine
Pre 9
eleven.
11.
Yeah, so you actually can see in certain shots there the towers are in the background. Um, which is crazy now because like I think like we were in a stage for a little bit where they were trying to remove stuff like that from movies, and I'm glad because they could easily like remove it if they wanted to.
It
They can
doesn't
go
have
back into it.
anything to do with the movie. There'd be no
Right,
reason
exactly.
for them to, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad that course they didn't. Also glad that it's actually shot in New York
Also, it's a
City.
movie that didn't make money, and it'd be expensive for them to remove it.
I know it'd be more than the actual budget of the movie.
It'd be more money for them to remove the Twin Towers from the movie than they actually made.
But I am glad they actually shot in New York City, because, like, sometimes they try to fake it with, like, they go to Canada and, like, they try to make it look like New
Vancouver.
York. Vancouver. Yeah. Fucking the new Scream is doing that too. But there, I mean, like, I think even more than LA, like, when that something is, like, shot in New York, like, for real, you can tell. And, like, and that adds a lot to, like, a movie's aesthetic, and I think it does.
Walking here, like, you can tell, like, you know exactly.
And
New York.
And I'm glad that they actually did that and didn't fake it, because, like, it adds a lot, I think.
Yeah.
To certain movies that
it
are,
has
like,
the perfect nuance.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know what? Everyone else, like, we kind of, like, saying what people are doing now. We were talking about Kieran Culkin. Claire Danes has another show out. She's still working. Ryan Phillippe is still consistently working. Like, who else? Jeff Goldblum, of course, is Jeff Goldblum's still working. Everyone is still.
He just does whatever he wants. He's totally fine. Sarandon.
Yeah, 20 years. This movie came out over 20 years ago. Everyone is still going at it. I actually didn't know what else. This is, like, Burr Sterrs', like, first movie that he wrote and directed. But I was like, what else had he done, like, since then? Because I couldn't, like, find anything. But he actually directed 17 again with Zac Efron in 2009.
Wow.
And
those teenagers.
He also worked with Zac Efron again in Charlie St. Cloud, which I actually like. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I thought it was pretty good.
Is that the Nicholas Sparks movie?
No, it's not. It's the one where his, like, brother dies in the car accident, and then he goes to, like, it's so cheesy, but, like, he goes, like, his brother's ghost, like, shows up to the same spot they used to play, like, basically.
What?
It's a really emotional movie. Shut up.
All right, to everyone out there, I will not be picking Charlie St. Cloud for the next. That's one movie you can guarantee that I will not be picking for the next.
Dude, it's fucking
Charlie
sad.
St. Cloud, where a ghost brother comes to talk to his friend.
There's, like, a big twist at the end too. That's like, what? But, like,
Ooh.
it's a very emotional movie. Shut up. I couldn't even, like, what's funny is that I like it, and as I was explaining what the plot was,
You're like, this sounds so stupid.
I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, yeah, and then his ghost brother comes to, like, the same spot where they play baseball growing up, and he, like, wants him to come to that same spot at the same time every day to, like, play baseball with him. Oh, guys, it's not.
Sounds amazing.
It's not.
Sounds incredible.
Yo, when Owen says, like, he plays with his ghost brother, it doesn't sound as good as I'm trying to make it out to. But yeah, that guy, he's directed other movies.
Yeah. All right. For all you out there, I recommend Igby Goes Down. That's what I would recommend
of the movies that he's done.
17 again.
It's fine.
Not bad. It's not bad. But this is definitely the one I'd recommend.
Oh man, you're never gonna see the Ghost Brother movie, right?
No, that'll be a hard pass for me.
Oh god, I don't even know how to, like. Oh yeah. There's questions at the end of here. Sorry, we got distracted by, like, I shouldn't even brought that movie up.
My Ghost Brothers.
The Ghost Brothers, Charlie St. Cloud. It's actually
God.
Pretty fucking good. You know what? Whoever's listening to this,
actually pretty fucking good.
Whoever listens to this episode, I know this is about Igby Goes Down, and, like, all your questions and comments should be about Igby Goes Down. But if there is someone that listens to this small part of the episode,
it has something to do with Charlie St. Cloud,
and you actually like it, let me know. Because I think that it is a not bad movie and worthy of your time, even though I can barely get through the plot synopsis without laughing. Yeah. So on that note,
yeah.
But
all right, what are the questions?
You know what? This is what people are actually kind of enjoy about, like, I think, this show. Like, even if there is a segue, it's a funny segue. Like, I mean, that was like a genuine like I tried so hard to like get that plot out without laughing. Like even I know it sounds absurd. um, so at the end of every episode, I put out there like if there are any questions that you want to ask us. I did it on like Twitter or the Instagram. I did it on G Reels. There were a few. There's a bunch. So like we're just gonna like uh
A bunch. I'd
yeah
love
there
to hear
are.
it.
So like on each episode there'll be like one for myself. There'll be one for Owen, and then there'll be one that's directed to both of us. Um,
Sweet.
and I kind of just like I have to like type them like most. I type most of them up. I still have some of them on my phone, but like I put them in this little thing that like kind of randomizes it, and that's how I pick. So like you know, eventually you will hear your question answered on one of the shows. But uh, Jake's takes on Twitter as
Jake
you
Steaks.
you Owen. Um,
Okay.
what was one of your favorite movies growing up, and does it still hold up for you today as an adult?
Ooh, okay. So I guess growing up, the kinds of movies that I watched with my family, I mean, I grew up definitely in what people would consider a sheltered household. So I definitely watched a lot of Pixar movies growing up. But I think, I mean, I don't want to give a cop out answer saying Lord of the Rings, but that's something that I've watched since I was like
Yeah, that's no.
12 years old on. And like
Is
that
that
has
just like as
continued
like
to hold up.
trilogy as a whole, or like
Just the
one
trilogy
of
as a
them as
whole.
a
I mean,
whole?
and
Yeah.
I think like even now, just showing how unsuccessful the Rings of Power has been, it just shows how like fantastic the actual Lord of the Rings trilogy is, and like how it can pretty much never be recreated, especially with the overuse of CGI and sort of
Yeah.
the mildly successful Hobbit series. I know I've given my 2 cents on this in the regular Back to the Blockbuster
Yeah.
show, but I don't know. I definitely say that, but I don't know. I think probably just like, I mean, if I could give one movie that to this day that my family still watches, that we still quote and we still find a time, if it's on, we always watch it. It's Get Smart with Steve Carell
You know
and
what's
The Rock and
yeah,
Hathaway.
and Hathaway,
It's
like
just one of those ones that like 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 it's not dirty, it's not in your face crude. It's just perfect
it's per
humor.
it's
It's like
perfectly
really
like
well
PG
done. The
13.
timing's
Like
great.
it's like perfectly
Yeah,
PG-13. Like you know what's
it's
crazy about you bringing that
perfect.
movie
Yeah,
up is that like that movie was successful. It made money, but I'm really
yeah.
surprised that you never got another one. Like
I'm
I
glad
like
they didn't. I'm not gonna lie.
really,
I'm
yeah,
glad they
yeah.
didn't
Yeah, I guess
because
it's
like
good.
it could have just like kind of ruined the first one for me. But like it's just it's so good and it's so perfect, and all the actors in it play their roles so perfectly, and each line is delivered like pretty much every line makes me laugh.
Yeah. I remember
Even
when I
just
saw
in
that.
terms of like the nerds who do the
Yeah.
stuff behind the scenes, like it's just so great. And I mean, Alan Alden, like,
Yeah.
like Alan
That whole
Alda,
cast is
like
great.
he's
That whole cast is great.
it's so
Like,
great.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's good that like, they knew that certain things were like maybe just be a one-off and this was good and it was funny and like but yeah, I love usually when a movie's like that is successful, they're like, "Oh, we got to make another one." And they just
Yeah.
never like they never did. And like I remember when I saw it in theaters, I was like, "This is actually pretty funny." And it seemed like when it came out, people talked about it a lot
Well, I
and
think it was like
then
it
it
was
went
also
away.
like right at the height of Steve Carell's movie
Like
career,
movie
where he
career,
was.
right?
I'm wondering what he did right after that, because I feel like he probably the reason they didn't do a second was because he was contractually obligated for something else.
Oh, we're about to find out. Because was he done with The Office at this point?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, because he was actually like a full-fledged like movie star. I
Yeah,
think
movie star at
by
this
the
point.
time I am trying to see when Get Smart came out. 1 second. Uh,
2010 maybe 2009.
let's see. Yeah, 2008. Jesus. So
Wow.
right after this, he did Date Night and then Despicable Me as a voice.
Yeah,
Uh, Dinner for Schmucks, Crazy Stupid Love. I mean, yeah, he got pretty
you just
busy.
went on a roll.
Yeah, he
You
got a
went
roll.
on
Yeah,
an absolute
he got pretty
bankroll.
busy. And I guess in a
Went on
weird
a-
way, The Rock did too. Like, I mean, like they all kind
yeah,
of like this was back when The Rock wasn't like the lead and stuff
and Anne
just
Hathaway
yet.
was like,
And yeah, she was like, yeah. Well, she's back in now.
Not for a bad reason. I still love Anne Hathaway. I have nothing against
I do
her.
too.
But
I like
after
there was like
that,
that small period of time where people were like, "Oh, I don't like her," and I'm like, "Why? What
there
did
was
she
like
do?"
6 or 7 years where she did nothing.
Yeah, I was like, "What did she do?" And they're like, "I don't know. I just don't like her."
Her
Everyone,
face.
yeah. It's like, dude, like she goes through that. Jennifer Lawrence goes through that. Brie
Yeah.
Larson goes through that. They like for like, there's no like tangible reason why certain people don't like them, and they're just like, I just don't. Just, yeah, and
I know.
Anne Hathaway went through that for sure. All right, so I have my question. That was a good question though, and I would say that how long has it been? It's been like 10 plus years since I watched Lord of the Rings, like all three of them, because it's a fucking investment.
Extended versions are on
Yeah,
HBO Max, man.
it's a fucking investment, but I
Yeah,
do love.
it's
I
about
thought they were
5 hours per extended version, and it's totally worth it.
all right. I don't want to butcher this person's Instagram name. I think it's Jinja Ninja. His name is Jason K, but jinja.ninja.jk on Instagram.
Ginger
uh,
Ninja.
wanted to ask me what movie inspired me to get into the press business. It's a good question. I kind of got into this by accident. I went to film school because I wanted to like write movies. Um, you know, I finished season one of something I'm writing right now. There's like 13 episodes, so that's nice to kind of get back into it. Um, and we'll kind of see what happens with it. Maybe Owen will get to read it. He's in it, so it'll be interesting to see
Who
how that.
knows?
Uh, but
Maybe you'll
yeah,
see me on TV. Highly doubt it.
um, so I got in the press by accident. I started G Reels as a hobby, and then I got a sponsorship for it, and then they kind of helped take it off, and then that's how I got noticed by like other outlets to work for them. But no, I didn't get into this to do press. It kind of was like, this is what's gonna this is like a career now. It's gonna pay my bills and pays me pretty well. Um, yeah, I kind of had to do like, I think everyone knows like the industry is like kind of all about like who you know if you want to get like stuff sold and all that, and like, not saying like there are so many like filmmakers, like first time filmmakers that do make it and they do really well, but a lot of it is making connections with like, this person that is at this studio, like all that. So that is a big part of it, and that is a hard part of it when you're getting into it. So
Mhm.
I had an opportunity to like make money going a different direction. But as far as what movies inspired me, I have talked about it on here a lot. Everyone that knows I love the original Halloween. It's one of my favorite movies, not just like one of my favorite scary movies, but one of my favorite movies. And I just like the idea of like the behind the scenes like making of it. It was just like a group of friends who were like, we're gonna make this like really scary movie together. Not everyone that worked on that movie, because it was such a low budget movie, like the actors were bringing in their own wardrobe, and the actors were helping like, because it's supposed to be fall, so they're helping like pick up leaves after like shots are done and like moving them over. Like, it's not just like, oh, the prop guy's doing this and that. Like, everyone was so
Everyone helped.
involved in making it, and I always love that story, because like, it was just like the love of wanting to make something good, and of course it became super successful. And for better or worse, there's a ton of them now. But like that original movie, like that
Better or
original movie,
worse.
yeah, that original movie was just made with like the purest of intentions, though, like of just like getting your friends together to like make something that you both love. And
Yeah.
like that kind of inspired me to want to, more so than like the quality of the film. I learned more about technical stuff later, but it was that idea of creating something like that made me want to get in that industry, like whichever way I am in it. um
Yeah.
you know
I
what?
love
It's still
that.
cool it's still good to be like adjacent to it, though. Like, I still get to be in like the room with like a lot of these people and like talk to a lot of interesting people, even not making my own stuff. But I will continue to write my own stuff because it's my passion, it's what I want to do. But
Yeah.
I'm very happy that I fell into this, even if it's by accident.
This
It's
realm.
it worked out for the
Yeah.
best.
I love that, man. It's a great answer.
And the question for both of us, God, everyone has such difficult names. All right, I'm gonna try to do this one. Oh wait, yeah, they're actually listed. This is Perry Chin. I was like reading something else on Instagram. Uh, for both of us, how often do you watch movies together? We have watched a handful of
Mhm.
movies together.
Yes.
Um,
I'd
and I
say
think,
not as much as we'd like.
yeah, I think that's a good answer. I mean, when we first started the podcast, we actually saw movies in theaters together a few times. Like we saw Morbius,
Yeah.
for better or
Oh
worse,
God. We saw
together.
the
But
Batman together too.
we saw the Batman together, and then we saw Doctor Strange, I think, together.
Yep.
Um, and then of course, we talked about like 25th Hour. I watched that at your old place now.
Mr. and Mrs.
What?
Smith.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, we've definitely
Closer.
seen like a good amount. I would say like we definitely need to do it more. And the thing is, we talk about this all the time. Every
Yeah,
time we watch a movie together, we're like, we need to do this more often.
yeah, because I think just assuming based on the question, like it seems like they're probably wondering like we probably watch movies together a lot because of this.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, like you said, not as often as we probably should. But we recently were like I think I texted you, I was like we should make movie night a
Yeah.
regular thing.
I mean, the thing that's crazy is like we hang out every single week. So it's like
Yeah,
that's the thing that's wild is like we do see each other
yeah.
consistently all the time.
We do
But
stuff
when
together.
we decide to put away 3 or 4 hours, 2.5 hours to watch a movie, we need to get better at that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think like other people have asked me that too, like just in general, and I was like, yeah, like you know, I will say this though, because I actually see movies in theaters with my little brother because he always wants to see like what's new. We don't really watch movies together at the house, because we just have different tastes when it comes to like watching older stuff. So like, I might want a good cry and watch The Spectacular now, and he's like, "No, I'm good. I don't want to watch that." Um,
Yeah.
you're probably other than the people like I work for, and then people I communicate with on like G Reels. I think you're the only like friend in real life I actually talk movies with, though.
Yeah.
Uh, and more than just like, oh yeah, that was pretty good. Like where it's like more of like a detail. It's
More
more
than
of a
just casual.
detailed conversation. So like, so yes, we will probably do it more. I'm assuming that we'll do it more.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
especially stuff that we have to do for this show. Like it'll like if we're whatever your next pick is gonna be. Like,
Yeah.
uh, yeah. You know what? The chemistry is just there because we actually are friends and we hang out. So I think it's more like
It
I
works.
there's more of that than like do we actually watch movies together? Like yeah, we like you said we see each other almost every weekend. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, we will be better as a unit and watch movies together so we don't come off
Yep.
as frauds
We're
pretending
not.
like we
We promise.
pretending like we like do all these movie things together.
We
Um,
promise.
but yes, like we mentioned in episode one, we're not gonna necessarily say what Owen's pick is gonna be. We're gonna try to get you guys to kind of guess it when we
Hmm.
figure it out. With prisoners, I had to like go to the picture scramble. Like the first three clues, everyone was like, "Damn, I don't know
That
what
was
this
pretty
is."
good, man. That was pretty good.
And then when I did the picture scramble, one guy was like, "Fuck, I knew it was prisoners." uh, but yeah,
Hindsight's always 2020.
but yeah, of course, when we pick it, and if you guys happen to guess it, we will shout you out. We did shout out the people that got prisoners in episode one.
Hmm.
And when I throw clues up for this one and then what Owen has next, hopefully you guys will be able to guess it. I don't even know
Yeah.
what he's picking next.
Yeah. I'll let you know soon.
Uh, yeah, but and we promise, even though it took a while to do episode two, we are on a bi-weekly schedule now. So every other week on Fridays, you will hear these episodes. And if we happen to like, miss it because like one of us is busy, like we will put it out there. They're like, hey, we're recording on a different day or we're releasing the
Yeah.
episode later. Like we'll let you know. But
We'll let you all know.
it'll definitely be more consistent. There aren't any big holidays coming up, MLK Day, but you don't need time
No.
off for that. That sounds really bad.
I
Yeah,
know.
I love MLK Day. Yeah. So yeah, we don't have anything huge coming up. So like, we'll be in a more consistent schedule for you guys. Uh, and yeah, this is another solid episode. I'm glad that it was different from episode one. Kind of
Very
shows that
much
we
so.
can how we
Yeah.
choose like different types of movies to do for
Yeah.
this.
Hope you
Um,
guys liked it. I thought it was a great movie, and besides the snoring in the beginning,
yeah,
but after that, I mean, yeah,
Yep.
just I mean, we have no movies that are off limits.
Yep. And like I said, I have a copy of Igby Goes Down because I actually, still collect physical media. Um, when we picked this, I think it was available to watch for free for Prime users on
It
Amazon
is.
Prime. So if you guys want to check it out, that is one place to like check it out for free, unless you want to buy a prehistoric DVD of it from
Or just go
online,
on YouTube and spend whatever it
spend
is,
some
three and a
money.
half dollars.
Yeah. So yes, like I said before, the best thing about Owen being on this show is that well, not the best thing.
I
One
do
of
the
the best
outro.
things. Yeah, I know how to do the outro. You're just better at it, and yeah. Go
Well,
for
guys,
it.
thank you guys for coming and tuning into another episode of Back to the Blockbuster Deep Dive with Gaius and Owen. We had a really good time doing Igby Goes Down. It's so much fun just kind of diving into these movies, like, and every single genre. I mean, I know we went sort of super deep the first round, but we kind of went a little dark comedy this time, and I'm really glad we did. It was a really good time talking about this movie, and you can always catch us on anywhere you like to listen to podcasts. Personally, I'm on Spotify, but Apple Podcasts continues to be the best place that most people like to tune in and listen. If you'd like to rate us on Good Pods, we've always loved our listeners rating us on that. It's always been amazing. Thank you for all the support out there to everyone who's listening and commenting and subscribing, whatever you guys like to do. Just keep tuning in because we got a lot of things coming and more movies to deep dive your way. So keep on listening, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
See, this is why you do the outro. You're so good at it. It's like natural. It's like a salesman. I fumble through it. Like I'm gonna get the new guy. Like before we take off, like we have a new guy on the other show, Jackson. I did the outro today, but I think when we record next week, I'm just gonna like, yo. So do you want to do the outro? Because
Practice the outro a little bit.
yeah, you want to do it because I feel like you should do it. I, you're I'm I do the intro, you do the outro. It seems fair.
Here we go. I'll take it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for your continued support. Also, I
Shout out
did
to
mention
playlist.
this. Oh, playlist. Oh, I do. Yeah, I really do want to shout out to them because one, they are very supportive of doing the spinoff. They were just happy to have Owen back on in general in some capacity. Um, and they've been really good. They actually are creating an intro for this show for our social media clips, so it actually stands out from like the other
Teeny
show.
bit different.
It's just a teeny bit different. They've just been really supportive of like now in this case like editing like two shows uh sometimes in the same week. So they put in so much work that I wouldn't have time to do or Owen wouldn't have time to do. And they're also very supportive of us. They actually like us, which I think
That
is
helps.
a really
It helps.
it's a really nice thing to hear when they're not just like, yeah, just give us your new episode, like be gone. Like they actually have nice things to say about us individually. So I think that's really good support system to have. They've been really great. And I don't think we actually I know you thank them a lot, but I don't really think we thank them like enough, especially with like doing both shows now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to have their support and like
They're
yeah,
the best.
and we can't wait to deep dive more in 2023 and I kind of want to put a poll up for our first two picks. I know I'm going to get slaughtered by prisoners like who had the best pick. I'll do it anyway. I'll do it anyway. I'll do it anyway.
Oh,
I'll do it anyway. I'll put it on Instagram.
you gotta wait until like at least each of us have had a couple picks and been like, all right, who's had the better picks? You can't go off the first pick.
Yeah, because like I was thinking about it, I was like, that sounds like a good idea, but I was like, prisoners would slaughter Igby Goes Down, and I don't want to take I don't want to take that L right away. But yeah, we'll eventually do that. It's not like a friendly competition kind of thing.
Always.
All right, guys, thanks so much for listening. Peace out.